This is what they were given. These were the requirements that they wanted them to agree to in order to move forward. Okay? Jonathan and Suzy, Daystar says, this is what you will do. We'll keep disagreements about theological opposition to marriage to themselves. Keep it to yourself. This is a Christian organization and a television show, and we now have a really bizarre marriage that has just taken place, and we want you to keep your theological opposition to marriage to yourselves, okay? All right. I guess they could do that. We'll keep disagreements about Doug's divorce to themselves privately. We'll accept the existence of the marriage, support her in the marriage, and accept the fact that Doug is her husband. They were trying. They were really trying. We'll keep disagreements about the marriage to themselves privately and to keep any and all negative feelings or opinions they have against Jimmy Evans to themselves privately. Jimmy Evans was no longer their favorite uncle, you know. We'll accept her decision to make Doug co-host. I think they had. I think they were like, all right, you're going to have the co-host, Mr. Doug, who talks nonstop about masturbation and guys' private parts and whether they are blessed or not. And you're going to make Mr. Doug, who's been on our show for 10 years plus, talking about how much he loves his green-eyed wife, how he makes love to her looking in her eyes, how he has the butterflies, how he told Jonathan he had butterflies for the wife. And you're going to make this man who has just left his 36-year marriage with a woman begging for him to come back, and Jonathan and Suzy knew all about that. And you're going to make him the co-host, and you want us to just zip it. Whew. Okay, Mom, we're trying to be a watchman on the wall and say that this is probably the worst decision of your entire life. We want you not to do this. Mom, please don't do this, please. But she did. They were able to give a 1-minute synopsis with Denise Boggs involved. Miss Denise Boggs, after interviewing Doug Weiss, I'm sure you don't know this, Marcus, Doug Weiss and his ex-wife, and they were considering reconciling. That was July and August. That's my dog. Hello. July and August, all right, of 2022. There's a consideration of reconciliation, even renewing their vows. By August, she's kissing the hound dog, and I'm talking about Joni, kissing the hound dog out of Doug. The kids then know by February of 2023, just months before the wedding, that Green Eyes, Lisa Weiss, very sad. She's just devastated. Apparently, she's been put forward like she's the abusive person. For all of these years, 10 plus years, Doug just sung her praise. Now, understand from my investigation into yourself, you've had some rough marriages. I've had some rough times too. God is faithful. But this was a dynamic that was very difficult. Jonathan and Suzy believed that their mom was entering into a covenant with a wolf in sheep's clothing, and they did their best at these times to stand up for that. In the recordings you've heard Doug Weiss yell. We can play it right now.
It's not honoring to be abused. It's not honoring to be abused. It's not honoring to be neglected. It's not honoring to be untouched and unloved. It's not honoring to do that. Okay? I have a clear conscience before my God, who has never left me 1 second in this process and provides miracles for me to get out of that. Okay? It's not honorable to do that.
It's not fun to be abused. Well, was she Green Eyes, the love of your life? That was some good acting, wasn't it, Marcus Rogers? They weren't fooled. Jonathan and Suzy were not fooled. So they were trying to now accept that Doug is going to be the co-host in spite of a shattered, wife, ex-wife in the wake of this, and their mom having to deal with it all. So let's go on. It says, any objections to Doug being co-host to themselves? Will make no social media posts about Daystar, which includes their employment. All right. Or Joni marriage issues or Doug divorce issues without the approval of CEO Mr. Callender and Arnold Torres. We'll get to those two again one day because there's a lot to talk about. Just saying. Delete Jonathan's sabbatical posting and all comments to it off the internet. Delete any other social media post by Jonathan. Now, just so you all know, they wanted everyone, including the staff, to lie that Jonathan and Suzy were on a sabbatical, and they weren't. So you see, they stopped playing the lying game. You know the lying game where Joni tells you to like Rachel's posts, and then when Rachel asks her, did you tell so-and-so to like my posts? And Joni says, no, I did not. Where were you in the house at the beach? Were you in the basement or on the main level, or were you actually in the room? Because it seems like you know everything that was going on. When you used to take Suzy out and you were grooming her to be the president's wife of Daystar, and then you'd come back and tell everyone, oh yeah, no, I was out doing my nails. Joni's lies just flow freely. And she did it with you. And I'm sure you did watch Julie Royce actually deconstruct and brilliantly present to you how the questions that Joni was answering made no sense. And you didn't know anything about the story. You didn't even know what was a lie and what was true because you didn't know the story. And so, it's embarrassing. I'm actually sad that I have to talk to you about this because I was so excited about your interview with Jonathan and Suzy. I was so excited. I didn't meet them online or begin communicating with them until after your interview because I was so thrilled. I thought you talked a bit too much in your interview, but I was excited that you talked to them. And then you met with Joni. It was like, okay. I'd love to interview Joni. Do you think Joni would be interviewed by me? No. Why would she be interviewed by you? Why would Joni Lamb be interviewed by you? Maybe because of your relationship that you make so prominent with Rodney Howard-Browne? Rodney Howard-Browne told Joni straight up, your marriage isn't right. Talk to him, ask him. Ask Jonathan about that. He told Joni it wasn't right, and to the point where he said, if you marry this man, I will never come on Daystar. That's your hero, Rodney Howard-Browne, who you said, oh yeah, I'll call him. I'll tell him I'm doing this. He'll be fine. He'll be fine. You're so close with Rodney Howard-Browne. Rodney Howard-Browne wanted no part of this, and he still wants his name kept out because there's all this covering going on, So let's read more of these. Delete all the social media posts, basically, and related comments that allude to any of items 1 to 5. Suzy has posts on social media that have no names but can be interpreted as referring to the sabbatical. Joni's position at Daystar, the marriage that affects Daystar, and must be deleted. They didn't like no truth coming out about, yeah, we're not actually on a sabbatical. They didn't want any disagreement with the marriage. You submit or you're done. We don't care that you're the heir apparent and Marcus on his deathbed said he wanted you to take over Daystar. We don't care about that. About Jonathan wanting, and Marcus wanting Jonathan to take over. We don't care about any of that. within just a short period of time, the man who was trying to protect his mom from Doug, have you seen all the things that Doug has said and done? Have you listened to the accounts of the people whose marriages they feel were in worse shape after going to heart? And in fact, some women saying that they felt actually violated from the way that he would try to show them stuff. I don't even want to know, but some bad stuff went down. People have considered doing a class action lawsuit. He made their marriages worse. He harmed people. He is not a good guy. And a psychologist that knew him years and years ago came forward to say that he's been bad news for 35, 40 years, not well respected. Promise Keepers will never have him again. He's not getting a lot of speaking engagements, and he's had to delete all the comments off of his social media. He's had to shut it down. You know what he went on about on December 31st? New Year's. Let's all celebrate New Year's. Doug Weiss does a video on how basically this will be the year you stop masturbating. After everything that had come out. And I think Joni's saying he doesn't look at any social media. I wonder why he thinks all the comments are so negative about him. All right. Jonathan must make a statement approved by Joni, Mr. Callender, and Arnold. This is the vice president. That expressed support for Joni. The sabbatical is over. Glad to be back, returning to ministry now. Yay, everybody, let's lie. We want you to lie, and we want you to talk about how you're back from your sabbatical that you never were on. We wanted you to lie about that too. We actually did lie, saying you were on a sabbatical and you were not. All of this is the way that they function. Constantly. This is how they do. It's lies. It's all lies. And so we want you to make a statement approved by Joni. All right. Must agree to destroy all recordings of meetings with Jimmy Evans and Joni and any recording of Joni talking privately with Joni and Suzy over refusal to read on air. I'm actually not certain if there's those recordings or whatever it is, but how on earth would we know about this dangerous spiritual abuse that happened if we didn't have the recordings? Could they get rid of this? Did you see how they've done things? Did you watch Jonathan and Suzy when I interviewed them and they talked about how Tom Callender was on their side? He even understood that it really isn't a biblical marriage. He was on their side. But Joni. The Joni got to Tom, and by the next day, it's all over. Who knows what she has on Arnold Torres? I'd like to talk a bit more about that sometime. Who knows? But for you, did you know about these things? This is what that second paragraph in the letter that you call the blackmail letter is about. This is what they insisted that he needed to do. Jonathan and Suzy, you comply, and you do it the way that we want you to do it. Destroy all the recordings, because Lord knows we do not want those out there. Oh, no. Yeah. Jimmy Evans has had to change his whole life. You know about that, right? Why? Because the public's all wrong who heard the recordings and have come against him? No. Because Jimmy Evans has been exposed. And there's lots in his background. Gateway, whatever. But it really came forward when he basically wanted Jonathan and Suzy to leave their godly beliefs at the door and not bring it into the church, which is Daystar, which is not a church. Is that a problem to you? All right. Must agree to destroy all Suzy recordings of private comments Joni shared with Suzy about sex and marriage involving Doug. Wow. Suzy, you got those recordings somewhere? I'd kind of like to know what those are. Why do they want them? Why do they want them destroyed? Oh, okay, so a mother-in-law is talking to Suzy about sex, marriage involving Doug. Why do you think they don't want that? I'm assuming a godly woman like Joni, although we were surprised at her language repeatedly. Wow, the way she talks is interesting for a godly woman. And we were surprised about the sexting. Rodney Howard-Browne knows about that. Jimmy Evans knows about the sexting. Suzy kind of was a little surprised and was concerned before the wedding that there was some stuff being said. Miss Denise Boggs, I'm sure you know this, Marcus, Miss Denise Boggs was so concerned by something that Doug had said, some lascivious, grotesque comment, something he had said to Joni, that she put it in the letter. That's in the Julie Royce thing. I'm sure you don't have time for me to go through it right now, but I'd love to read the whole thing to you. You know, the one where she said Doug is a wolf in sheep's clothing, and this is alarming. And that Doug had made a comment to Joni that previously Joni, as a godly Christian woman, she would have said, wow, like that is off the charts, not appropriate. But now Joni was just sort of not herself. She was a different person. Bewitched, one might say. And now she's accepting these kind of comments from Doug. So I don't really know what would have been said about sex and marriage involving Doug, and they might not want all that floating around because Lord knows we're already surprised enough about, kissing the hound dog out of Doug in August when his wife, his ex-wife, she was in with Miss Denise Boggs in August. There's an opportunity. And when the ex-wife was sobbing in February and was with Doug in Colorado, in February 2023, they married in June. And this lady was in tears and crying. And Doug is talking to Joni on the phone. And the Joni says to Suzy, she was angry and upset about it. The whole family was there. Basically, Joni says, this just makes me realize what a great husband he's going to be. Because his ex-wife wants him back so badly. Who abandoned who? I digress. Okay. So there will be no discussions with any programmers, viewers, partners, or third parties over concerning the items listed above. Joni is going to agree to allow Jonathan and Suzy to return to ministry now. Thank you, Joni. Nice. Sweet. So giving. Really. Jonathan and Suzy will not be required to read statements about the marriage or publicly endorse the marriage. Thank you. That is a good decision on Joni's part to not force the kids to read emails that endorse something that they believe to the core of their being is sin and an offense to Daystar and an offense to God. Unrepentant. Unrepentant. This is a key word here right now. Everyone makes mistakes. But if you're going to live in them and then force others around you to celebrate it, we've entered a different time. And then Jonathan and Suzy will be given the opportunity to build trust over time and earn back other involvement. Yes, because Jonathan and Suzy had betrayed the trust so greatly. I mean, who betrayed who with trust? Now, if we go back to this email, and so the list of demands we received, however, are overreaching, inaccurate, and missing essential terms that we view as a prerequisite to moving forward. I'm honestly asking you, Marcus Rogers, I am asking you to consider what I'm about to show you here and to understand that there's no blackmail. There's no blackmail. Everything that had happened had been a tremendous wounding to the family structure. This man having come in, the SA being said that he's exonerated. Pete's not exonerated. Oh my gosh, then what do? Go back to the police. He's not exonerated, and he shouldn't be. Are you concerned, Marcus, about potential victims being in the wake of all of this? More victims? I am. First and foremost, Jonathan goes on to say, we agree that trust must be rebuilt and that it must be rebuilt slowly. We are committed to walking this path. Our convictions, biblical beliefs, moral values are not going to be dictated, controlled, or otherwise impinged. Amen. Looks like Jonathan has strength. Looks like he's not going to be controlled by the Joni. Looks like he's not going to be told by Daystar what his values, biblical beliefs, convictions, or moral standings are. He's not going to be told by them. Fair enough? Sounds good, right? So far, so good. This episode began because of Joni's need to control our biblical convictions to suit her personal choices. We will not compromise on our biblical beliefs and moral convictions. We are, however, willing to keep those beliefs to ourselves, and we can agree not to share our thoughts about Joni's marriage to Doug on air with our viewers, with staff, or on social media. To be clear, moving forward, we will only share and read statements on air that we approve and that is in line with the truth. Does that sound like a good thing to say? Would you say something like that, Marcus Rogers, if someone was trying to force you to say things that were untrue? That's Jonathan and Suzy's words. That's what they agreed to speak the truth. Suzy would never share and does not possess recordings of private conversations with Joni. Oh, darn it. Is that all the sex stuff? Suzy, you didn't get that? Oh, that would have been sort of interesting. All right. No, I'm sorry. I went into a fleshly side just now, and I repent. All right. I just thought it would be interesting. All right. We'll let it go. Suzy is owed a letter fully reinstating her to all of her previous roles at Daystar. During the meetings with Joni and Jimmy Evans, Joni purported to fire Suzy and promptly removed her from all appearances on Daystar. Why'd she do that? Why did Joni do that? Because she didn't want to read an email. Was there another email she could have read? Yep. But she didn't want to read the email celebrating a marriage that she believed to be adulterous. That's only fair. So that was petty, Jonathan says, harmful and disappointing action. A repair must be made. Hear, hear. Well written, right? Got a problem with that? No. Should Suzy have been fired for not wanting to read an email supporting something she believes is ungodly? No. We remain willing to put this episode behind us. However, we also require security, transparency, and certainty about our futures at Daystar. Wouldn't you? So they want to tell you what you're going to read, how you're going to live, what's going to happen here. They want you to do all of that. They want you to have them under their thumb. And by the way, could you like Rachel's posts? Could you go to Rachel's kids' birthday parties, please? Would you mind? Could you like her lingerie episode that she did that we had to edit a lot on company time? Yeah. Would you do all that? And now please delete everything that you know to be true. All the recordings about the spiritual abuse that was witnessed, forcing us to have to read the emails, all of this nonsense. Just please delete all the evidence. No, We require security now. Why? Transparency. Why do they need that? About our futures at Daystar. Why? Because they were sent on a sabbatical because Suzy was fired, because Jonathan was threatened that he would lose his job if he did not read an email. He'd been already demoted to watching over the, the lunch area, the cafeteria. He'd been demoted. How humiliating, how horrible. Who would do this to their son? CEO of a huge company. Oh, yeah, you're not the VP anymore. You're going to be demoted to, yeah, would you mind just taking out the trash? I can't even think. It's so disturbing. Honestly, it's so disturbing. So they needed a little bit of help. This had nothing to do with blackmail. This had nothing to do with the SA. Do you hear anything about the SA in any of this? There was no blackmail other than saying, listen, you've lost our trust completely. You've lost our trust. So now we need security, transparency about our futures. To achieve this goal, we would suggest that Joni, Daystar, and ourselves enter into a new contract that clearly spells out my future role as president of Daystar. Because apparently, that's at risk all the time with you, Joni. And who knows what's going to happen with Doug in the picture and all of that. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen, but it doesn't look good. So I just want some assurances that my father's wishes on his deathbed and written previously that I would be the one that would, take over Daystar one day. We want that in writing now. They want a contract that clearly restricts the ability of Joni or any other officer or director from taking actions adverse to our employment without good cause, to be clearly defined, so that Arnold Torres, Tom Callender, who are definitely, Joni's got them by their, so that they don't get to decide his future, because guess what's happened? Because he was never able to get this clearly, he's out. It couldn't be any more clear how dangerous this situation was. How this mother was not in alignment with her son, how she had changed. Her alignments were now with Doug, the man that Miss Denise Boggs calls a wolf in sheep's clothing. That's where her alignment is now.